Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This episode is about employment in a very unique way. This episode is going to be in two parts, this week and next week. This is for all moms who have autistic, ADHD kids, dyslexia, dyspraxia, AUDHD that are about to graduate from high school, and employment is going to be on the menu. Next thing to deal with. And for moms who have kids who have already graduated from high school and are in the middle of the grind looking for employment. It's a grind if you're neurotypical. Now, if you're neurodiverse, it's even harder. But we have as our guest someone who's going to make this so clear and so much easier to understand and possibly to approach. We have as our guest Racheal Polarus, founder and CEO of the Neurodiversity Training Institute, which is an amazing institute. She's done so much great work, career coaching the individual, the neurodivergent individual, in how to look for work, how to choose a career, how to function once you are hired. And she also has training programs for employers. So we're going to go through all of this. But of course, we are also joined by our co-host, John McFadden. Hello,
Hello.
hello, John. Um, John will have his stories about what it's like, what it was like and is like now looking for work, and what it was like working in environments, some that were uh, supportive of him and others that he struggled a little bit with. So perfect, John, that you're here with us. Racheal, why did you start the Neurodiversity Training Institute?
If I'm honest with you, I tripped and fell into neurodiversity. I graduated high school and went straight into, or I'm sorry, I graduated college and went into recruiting. And I loved the psychology of putting teams together. It was absolutely wonderful. From there, I went on to do a little more about organizational psychology. So actually learn the psychology of the workplace and how we put teams together and how we actually get projects done. In some consulting, I was brought in to help a team who was the problem child department of this one company's team here in Pittsburgh. And they did everything they could think of to help increase tenure. So average tenure was 6 months. People were leaving very quickly. No matter what they did, they couldn't get people to stay longer. And by no matter what they did, I mean they brought in pizza on Fridays. And that was all they could think of to do. They didn't know what to do past pizza, which is corporate's number one solution for a lot of things is team building is pizza, and then we move from there. So when I came on, I did a little research onto this team, and I found out that they were actually auditing mortgage files in a post-closing on loans, mortgage loans. And still today, there's this paper audit where you go line by line by every single paper, and you see what's different, what needs to be changed. Each county and each state has its own requirements. So it is detail oriented, it is monotonous, and quite frankly, it's boring work. A lot of people just didn't like this environment. They didn't like the work, and that's why they were leaving. Shortly after getting in there, I found out that we were actually combining two separate roles. So I asked them to separate mortgage files and talking with individuals to find out the details. So someone would do all the communication externally, and then another group would do all the detail audits, because those are two completely different skill sets that are hard to find in the same person, but easy to find when we separate them. And then from there, we went ahead and we found a group of autistic individuals who thrived in this repetitive, detail-oriented environment. And we spent 2 whole extra days training. So it took very short, little bit of time to get them up and running and training. We put them in place. And eventually they're like, Racheal, please stop bringing me pizza. Stop checking in on me. I just want to go back to my mortgage files. I love what I'm doing. So through this little shift, we were able to take that problem child department within this company with the average tenure of 6 months and make it 3 years with this tiny little shift. And that sent me down the rabbit hole. I'm like, why didn't we do this sooner? You struggled for years before you brought me in. It's not that someone with autism or ADHD never applied. Like, that's not realistic. That's not factual when we look at the statistics.
I
So
know,
what
but wait a
actually
minute.
happened?
How did you even get to the point of pairing the talents and skills of an autistic individual with that job?
I mean, that's my psychology background, right? I understood the strengths of a
Oh,
autistic
okay.
individual, and I understood the mindsets that wouldn't work in this environment. I would not work in this environment. I can tell you right now, I am not made for repetitive tasks that detail oriented. I am a big picture, fly by the seat of your pants, fast type of girl, not detail oriented. So I think I had a different perspective in saying that I wouldn't last a month in this job. It's not made for my brain. But we can take a step back and say whose brain is it made for? Like who thrives in these kind of environments? And
So,
I went to move into neurodiversity. From there, I'm like, let's see what we can do, right? How can we make this better for finding jobs? How can we use people's brain it as an advantage to solve some of the problems that we see in the corporate world every single day, right? Because these autistic individuals are struggling, these corporate companies are struggling, and we solved two problems with approaching this differently.
okay, so this is kind of amazing. Well, I saw the HBO film on Temple Grandin. And for mothers who don't know about Temple Grandin, well-known artist, still living. I think she's in her 70s or 80s now. Because she was autistic, the way she thought was in such a way that she redesigned how cattle went through the K before, unfortunately, they turned into food. But she saved the cattle ranchers millions of dollars in doing that. And they were cattle ranchers and they never thought of it. So it's just like the people that you worked for, Racheal, they never, they can only think a certain way. And then it
Yeah.
takes somebody else to come in and think differently. I want to just say something to you, John. You know how we, over the past couple of years, have been talking about you because you have grown to an extent now that you are very social. You have a lot of soft skills. People take to you easily, but you also like to do things that are fairly routine. There seems to be a comfort. Um, and then I was trying to think of jobs for you that addressed that. You live in an environment right now where there is very little work. It looked like there was a lot of work before you got in your apartment. It turned out there isn't.
Mm-mm.
Have you thought more about what you would like to do? Because we have Racheal here, and Racheal does
Yeah.
career training for people.
I'd
Mm.
love to know what is it that you enjoy to do? What is it you want to do?
What is it that I want to do? I like to work in retail, and like I enjoy it, like Hot Topic or like a clothing store, things like that. Music store, but like I said, there's hardly any music stores anymore. But those type of things I like to do, and stuff like that.
What interests you in retail? Is it the people? Is it the merchandise? Is it any retail? Like what attracts you
And
to that area?
well, it's the people, and I like to I have like c- um coach them, like pick out some outfits that they might like or something like that. I think, things like that. And I'm so used to working like that type of thing with the public people. I'm pretty much good with working in the public and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
If I may, John is right. I mean, everything he said is absolutely right. First of all, he loves shopping. So he
Uh,
has a love for the retail environment, especially
uh-huh.
clothing stores, right? Or
Correct.
stores that have clothing as a section. Yes?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And he's also wonderful with people. People gravitate towards him, Racheal. When he was working at a grocery store for 15 years, he would get tips up to $100 just because he was nice to people.
Wow,
Hmm.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
So retail needs people that are warm and inviting and make you stay longer to buy more things, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so Racheal, is this kind of your approach? I wanted to ask you, you have two trainings. You have one for the corporate managers so
Mhm.
that they understand how to set up their environment for neurodiverse people, but also how to communicate. And then you work with people in the specifically people in the categories of autism, that have executive function skills. ADHD, which is interesting, by the way, because I had a conversation, just a general conversation with somebody who had ADHD. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. I just sat there.
Mhm.
John, ADHD people talk a lot.
Well, can I give you an example?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you know my mom's neighbor, Kate, she has that, and she won't stop talking, and it's very annoying, so I just let her go. Like you can't even interrupt her. So
Mm.
Right. So you did the right thing socially by letting her
yeah,
go. But in the work environment, there has to be a balance, does there
yeah.
not? Rachel, let's start with what's more important to start with, the training you do with the individuals or the corporations?
Let's start with individuals, right? Let's continue talking about jobs for John and how, right, some people get stuck and how we work through things, right? Let's, I think, continue down that path, and then we'll talk about corporations a little more in a minute. That's kind of the natural flow, isn't it? To find a job and then figure out how to work with the manager,
Yeah.
in whatever way you can.
Yes. Excellent. All right. So could you tell us about, hold on, the career coaching for the individual?
Yeah, so I actually find that there's a couple areas people get struggled on an individual level, or people get stuck on an individual level when it comes to employment. First off, is they don't know enough about what jobs really drive them. So we want to have fulfillment in our job. I think it's important. I personally teach and shoot for the rule of thirds. I think some people want to have joy in 100% of their job, but that's not necessarily realistic, right? I think you're going to love part of your job. I think there's going to be part of your job that you struggle with, and there might even be part of your jobs that you really, really wish you didn't have to do. I'm a business owner and I control my environment, and there's still things that I have to do as a business owner that I absolutely detest and I would prefer to never touch, but it is part of life. But how do we find that balance? So when we talk about the ADHD brain has this all or nothing mentality where it has to be 100% good. So what job has the most good, and how do you maybe mitigate some of the negatives, right? That's an area I tend to really talk with people about. What we see a lot in the field is people end up switching careers or roles every year and a half to something completely different because that didn't feel 100% of themselves. So we really
Ah,
try to have them understand what is best for their brain and what is realistic for the amount of your job you'll love. And then if there are parts of your job you don't love, how can we put systems in place that make it easier for you? So that is really one of the fundamentals with coaching. Two is the actual system of applying for jobs, right? It is difficult to consistently look for a job. You have to hold something that feels like rejection. It's not rejection, but it feels like rejection when you put an application in and you heard absolutely nothing. And you have to force yourself to put another application in. I was raised with the concept of one yes and 100. So this was something my dad taught me from a very young age, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. It's always what we were taught. I'm expecting 99 no's, right? So if you want one job, you're thinking about putting in 100 applications. You're not thinking about putting in one application. And you're thinking about this as I'm checking a box and I'm moving forward. So in applying for jobs, there needs to be a shift. And I hope that you find a job by your 10th application. With all of my heart, I hope it never takes you 100. But the mentality that you have is that this isn't one application to one job. That's not how it actually works. This is several applications to one job. And putting this system in place on how much time you devote daily to applying for jobs, instead of going through this huge rush, burning out, and then not applying for 3 or 4 weeks, or applying for one or two jobs that you really want and then hoping on them and not applying until like that's filled, but you don't have other jobs in backup. So there's actually a system that gets put in place for how you apply to your jobs, when you check them, how you track these things, and having a sort of system for a lot of these autistic, ADHD, dyslexic individuals can really help them in this applying for jobs. And part of my coaching will say your assignment is between now and next week to apply for X amount of jobs. And next week, we're going to be like, okay, how did it go? What jobs did you apply for? Did you find what you're looking for? If you're not finding what you're looking for job wise, what keywords are we searching? We're hearing back. What are we not hearing back? And making those small tweaks. So, really putting the system in place is another important part that I do for individual coaching because it is difficult and it's a system, and we need something that is consistently there, and to know how to put this effort in a way that doesn't burn us out and actually lands the job we're looking for.
Okay, you said a couple really important things, and I mean everything you said was important, Rachel. But well, here's what stuck out for me, and John, you can also chime in if you like. Everybody who's either selling themselves as a speaker, as a consultant, as a something to a corporation, or applying for a job, we beat ourselves up. And I'm going to throw myself in this too, because it doesn't matter whether you're neurodivergent or not. The process you offered is so realistic, and that is, there has to be a balance. You can't just apply for 20 jobs a day every single day. You need to take a breath,
Hmm.
reflect on what you've done, who you've applied to, and maybe take a day off. I don't know, just to refresh yourself so that you can put the right amount of energy into the search. And number two, I love what your dad said. Only expect a response 1 in 100. When
Hmm.
you put that realistic expectation out front, it becomes a different exercise. And I just started breathing easier as you're explaining this. I'm like, no, this is more humane what this woman is saying.
Because you didn't get rejected. You didn't get rejected. You just got one step closer to your 100, right? You just got one step closer. And I always say, I encourage people to apply for 2 to 3 jobs every single day, Monday through Friday. You take off on weekends. It can take you, with your resumes in place, with your system in place. Once you get that legwork in, right, you're going to hit your 100 jobs by week 8. 2 months in, you're going to have 100 jobs applied for, right? Like, we can have a system in place that actually helps you kind of get through this and get things in and get things done. Like, there's ways that we can put these fundamentals in place. 100 seems unreasonable to some people. It seems like that's too many. I'll never get there. But with these systems in place, with these understanding exactly what we're going to do and knowing what's happening, we can get there relatively quickly.
Okay. 100 is not unrealistic because I just had a conversation with my other nephew, Nicholas. John. I did. I had lunch
Yeah.
with him a few weeks ago. He's applying for jobs and he's not really thrilled. First of all, just the fact that it has to be online detaches us from humanity. It's not people to people talking. It's, people, a person talking to a machine. And he does go through that exercise. He's neurotypical, but it's demoralizing. And so I would like him to look at this when we air this, as this airs. I want him to watch this because you've just set up a realistic expectation.
Thank you. I
And-
appreciate that. It really is like, this is the same system I use for neurodiverse and neurotypical, right? It's the same pointers. We're not doing much different here. I think though some neurotypical minds understand the system better than neurodiverse minds, so they unintentionally put this into place. All
Hmm.
this training and coaching does is help a mind that doesn't necessarily grasp the process put a system into place that will actually carry them through without burning out. This could be easy as, right, I'm unemployed, I get up in the morning, I brush my teeth, I scroll my phone for an hour, I spend an hour applying for jobs, and then I go play basketball or whatever your little heart contents, right? We're talking like an hour of work 5 days a week. Take weekends off. There's no reason for it. If you stick to the system, you shouldn't have to do it every day. You should get time to breathe, just like everything else in this world, right? There's time for work and there's time for other things.
So when your parents say to you, "What did you do all day?" Well, I put in 3 job applications. And they say, "You should have put in 10." What's the response?
Mm. I think that's simply, I'm like, my goal is to put in 100 by this day, right? This is the
Mm.
system that I'm doing, right? This is the way that I consistently apply for jobs without getting burnt out. I don't want to do too much 10 at one time and then do none for the next week. And I think as long as you lay it out as a system and that you've thought about this and there's a plan, most parents will understand. Because in my experience, when I ask or parents ask the question, they want to know that you've thought about it, that you're not just winging it. They want to know that you have a well thought out, structured plan and you're actually moving towards something. A number is maybe a neurotypical would put on that, not understanding the burnout cycle. But if you lay out your plan, I think most parents would be like, love it. Go
No,
play basketball. You did it, right? Like,
there's this thing about burnout, job application burnout, that I don't think people pay enough attention to. So, John, when you moved to the neighborhood that you're in, you moved, I think, in March or February.
February.
Okay, thank you. So, Rachel, it looked like a cute little community of all smaller stores, a grocery store. Okay, so that's a bigger company, and a few restaurants. So there are more employees in a few restaurants. And John, tell Rachel what you did on your own looking for a job once you moved there.
Oh, I worked at this place called Popcorn Willie's.
Now, how did you get to that
Oh,
point? What did you do once you moved in? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Let me tell you your life. So, what you did was you walked around to stores and introduced yourself.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot that part.
Did you really do it?
Yeah,
I thought
I,
you did.
I did.
Okay. So you walked around the neighborhood and you walked in the stores and you introduced yourself and you said you were looking for work.
Mhm.
And did they take your name or number down?
Mm-mm.
Did you have anything that had your name and number on it? Okay. Okay. So Rachel, John could have used a little bit of coaching
mhm.
since he's not afraid to
Mhm.
introduce himself. The one piece in that was something written down. He does have a resume, by the way. Your mom did make a resume for you
Correct. Yes.
because she does the online applications for him.
Hmm.
But it's such a little mom and pop neighborhood
Those are
that
difficult. Those are difficult.
Very,
all they
very
tell,
difficult.
because there's not a lot of opportunity.
Mhm.
You're right.
A
And there's
lot
a
of them have
lot.
themselves as an employer, right? Like when we're talking about mom and pop stuff, they have their employer and maybe in a peak season, one or two others.
Yeah.
My actual personal recommendation, and I don't know how you feel about this, is Goodwill is a wonderful disability employer. If you've never been to, and applied in a Goodwill, I know several people who have been hired there rather quickly with all kinds of different disabilities, cognitive, physical, visual. If you're close to a warehouse, I don't know your specific location or the location of all warehouses around, but a lot of times there's warehouses, there's sorters, there's merchandisers, there's all of these back office things that happen at actual Goodwills, and they are very quick and well trained. You would be surprised on how open they are.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh, Rachel, that's phenomenal. Thank you. I
And
will,
then one that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
no,
interrupt.
I just say I'll pass this along. Keep
Yeah.
going.
One that I love is I would secretly, if I had more time in my hands, love to be one of the Walmart pullers for pickup. I like I get dopamine, so my brain does really well when shopping, but my budget doesn't always live up to the shopping. So I think I would like the physicalness of walking around and pulling other people's orders. And then I think I would get a lot of dopamine personally, and it would feed into my reward system and how my brain works, being able to pull other people's orders, even though I'm not going home and I don't have to pay for it. So personally, I think one of those Walmart pullers is something that I would really enjoy, and they tend to be hiring pretty consistently. And I do know Walmart has a broader hiring channel. So Walmart notoriously we don't see the type of age discrimination or disability discrimination we do with some of the larger chains, or we heard about with some of the larger chains.
Okay, that's really cool because there's absolutely a Walmart in his area. I mean, you would have to take Access or someplace, John, but I don't know if there's a Goodwill. I'll check on
Yeah,
it.
there's a Goodwill right down the street.
Are you kidding?
There's Goodwill and there's also a place called Hidden Treasures. It's
Same
like
kind of thing?
it's yeah, same kind of thing.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
Okay,
would
this is
definitely
excellent.
definitely go in with your application, right? Definitely ask to speak to a manager, because there's going to be more people in a Goodwill than just the one person behind there. You can apply online. They have easy online applications, but Goodwill is a very very neuro-friendly company, and disability friendly as a whole. My husband actually works for one as a driver, so he drives between the factories and has had extensive training on a lot of this, which has been interesting for me to see from the outside, on his perspective and the training he gets, not from me and not from my company, but just as an organization that tries to do their best.
It's excellent, Rachel. My God, worth your weight in gold here today.
Thank
All
you.
right, now just to finish out dealing with the individual, I think these two things may go together as I was reading through all of your information, and that is career coaching for the unmasked professional, meaning somebody already has a job, but they're struggling
Yep.
because they feel they can't be themselves. They have some challenges that they don't want to reveal, thinking it would result negatively on their employment picture. And then something else that I read in all of your materials, and that is workplace success strategies for managing executive function challenges. And this kind of seems like it goes together, does
So
it?
I have a couple different avenues once we have individuals who get a job and they need support, they want continued support. So one area is what we've done on a psychological level. We'll map out the first 6 months and we'll say anyone, right? This isn't autistic ADHD. This is anyone who leaves a job within the first 6 months tend to leave because of these problems. And we'll look at problems that come up in month 1, month 2, month 3, all the way through month 6. And then we can look at those problems through a neurodiverse lens, whether that's autistic, whether it's ADHD. Unfortunately, in today's world, there's not enough research for us to look at the research on why someone leaves a job within the first 6 months with ADHD. Hopefully, they catch up. But until then, this is the way that we've kind of compensated. So we can say, okay, the biggest obstacles we see in month 1 are A. This is what it looks like. This is, some tails or some red flags that it's coming, and this is how we overcome it. And so we actually step individuals through the first 6 months of employment so they have maybe a bridge. So you have an autistic individual who maybe doesn't understand how the workflow works, whether that's hierarchy and who they should talk to if they have a problem. Maybe that's how to write emails. See a lot of
Mm.
people who tend to do really rough or crass emails where they're just put in the one sentence that need to be displayed and they don't do the whole hello, how are you doing? Did you have a good weekend? Or the sign off, and we kind of train on that. So we walk through the first 6 weeks and we make this tailored to exactly what they need. What's happening at work? What is your manager telling you? What feedback are you getting? How do you feel with your coworkers? Do you feel plugged in? What support do you need? How do you ask for support? We walk through all of these things to make sure they have a partner for the first 6 months and they're set up for success. Regardless of what's happening inside their company training wise, we can help them navigate this.
Excellent.
And then another part of that is, let's say you've had a job for a while and you want to move up to manager. A lot of people don't know how to position themselves for a management opportunity, a team lead, a trainer, any of these type of steps throughout their career. So we'll look at where they are and where they want to be and kind of create a pattern for how they get to that higher up roles and those higher up steps, if that's what they want to become. In all of this, one of the things I've struggled with, I'm sorry,
No,
one of the
no,
things
please.
I've really struggled with in this whole pattern is coaching cost money, right? And maybe you're at a point where you have savings and you can pay for coaching, or maybe you're at a point where you have parents who will help and you're willing to help. But a lot of times I have a hard time personally asking or having the only available assistance for individuals, especially once they're off that cliff and they're 18 and there's no help. And everything costs thousands of dollars for coaching. So one of the things that we've created, and we're bootstrapping, working it up, trying to get the word out. But one of the things we've really created is a group called the Unmasked Professional Community. So in there, we train on all of these different things, but we do it in a group environment instead of an individual environment.
Oh, I
Because
love
it's a
that.
because it's a group environment, we can
Yeah.
charge $20 a month. So right now it's $20 a month to join. You have training videos every single week. I launch a new training video. All this holiday season, we've talked about burnout and stress on the holidays and how to navigate group interactions and all of these holiday type things. In January, we're launching a unmasking challenge where we're actually going to measure how much we mask. So there's a psychological way, like psychologists use it to measure the amount that you mask so we can see where you mask the most, where most of your energy goes out, and begin to pull that back. right? We can do that in a measured, monitored way where we're not just ripping a Band-Aid, scaring everyone around us and putting our mask right back on because we're a little scared about how we did it. We're scared of the reactions. We're doing this in a very tracked, managed way. We have weekly meetings where you can talk with me for an hour and get expert advice. And it's any questions anyone wants to talk about. We review resumes, we do interview prep, we do all of these things for $20 a month because it's not fair for the only way that we support people to cost thousands. So
Uh,
this is how we've tried to make it more for everyone and not cost prohibitive.
Okay, so that is phenomenal that you've done this because, yes, coaching by and large in any area is really costly. But
Yes.
also, there's a comfort, isn't there, in being a group when you're sharing the same experience with each other?
There definitely can be. Some people shy away from groups and they're like, I don't want to be in a
Ah,
group. I'm not social. So I think once you share a little bit, right? I always recommend just come. It's $20 for 1 month. There's a 7-day trial. Stay for 1 month, spend $20, cancel it if you don't like it, but share one little thing, like one tiny little
I
thing
see.
about you and see how the group responds and see the support where I've shared it's been a horrible week for me and I broke down twice this week. Like I've shared that many times on there. And the support that comes from that says, I feel rejected because didn't get the job I wanted. What do I do? Right. And the support that comes from that. And when you see that, you'll see that it's okay to really be yourself and that we're all struggling throughout this. And sometimes finding a job, getting a job, and keeping a job sucks. But we can do it together and
For
we can
all
figure
of
it out
us, by
together.
the
Yes.
way, for all of
Yes.
us. John, do you know what masking means?
Yeah, it means hiding.
Okay. All right. John is 40 years old.
Hmm.
I don't think this could have happened years ago, John, but just to address the masking, what Racheal was talking about in your own way, when you were working at the VFW, which is too far away for you to work at now that
Right.
you've moved, um, he spoke up. You spoke up, John. I don't want to talk about what your employer did right now. I want to save that for the second thing I'm going
Yeah.
to ask Racheal.
Yeah.
But just the
Yeah.
fact that you spoke up, can you address how you even felt comfortable enough to ask for what you needed?
Um, I think yes, because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to wait on tables, and I said I can't write things down, but I could certainly try it if you guys give me a chance and stuff like that. And they kind of worked with me a little bit on doing that type of stuff.
Right. The fact that you spoke up, though, I think this is really important. And I think this goes to some of what you were just talking about, Racheal, in the masking. I'm assuming there's so much fear in somebody pushing themselves forward, asking for more, thinking about some of the issues they're having right now, or can they really do the new job? Why should they even bother to ask? Is this some of the struggles your clients go through?
Yes. And I think of it this way, right? When we go into an interview, right, we rehearse every single anticipated question. So we'll sit there and we'll, in our mind, hopefully out loud, they're going to ask this, and I'm going to tell this story, and I'm going to say this. Oh, that didn't come out right. I'm going to say this. Oh, that didn't come out. Okay, it's better this time. And we review over and over and over and again in our head the social interactions we're going to have in this interview. It's very common for a lot of people with autism and ADHD to over think about these things. But when we talk about masking, a lot of times we think about never stopping this. So you'll rehearse what you're going to say around the water cooler when you get a cup of coffee. You'll rehearse when you walk
Oh,
into your manager's meeting, you'll rehearse every single interaction. So you'll go home and instead of relaxing for the day, you'll rehearse the next interaction or you'll review what you feel you did wrong. Wrong's not accurate. Like we can
I
debate that,
understand. If
but
whatever you made you uncomfortable, made you think you
yes.
didn't do it right or
And then
exactly right.
hindsight is, oh, I should have said this, or I should have said that, or this should have been my comeback, or right, any of those things, right? You can hindsight this all the time, but you spend so much time and mental energy reviewing these things that you're less present in your job. And then you're less present at home because you have all of this extra mental load. And that is really what shows up as masking. Right, not speaking up from yourself, rehearsing conversations, planning every single interaction, not saying your idea for fear that it won't be accepted, or if it fails, you won't be pushed forward. So a lot of people do this, but when neurotypicals do it, we consider impression management. So neurotypical people will do it for an interview,
Oh,
but they stop it when it actually gets into the job.
see.
Neurodiverse, autistic, and ADHD people do it in an interview, in every interaction, and everywhere they go, all the time, and it never stops. And it creates this huge mental load, which is why a lot of times we get burnout easier and quicker. So if we can stop this masking and reduce this mental load, it allows us to reduce burnout. So that's what we're aiming to do, is to say, where is our energy going? Why is it going here? And how do I reduce this so I can have more energy to put to the things I love to do, instead of coming home from work completely crashing and barely being able to feed myself?
And also, it's just so relaxing to be who you are, to just say what you want to say when you want to say. I mean, considering that it's kind and nice, but other than that, yeah. John, did you when you were a Giant Eagle, did you speak up and ask for things like
No, I didn't.
different? No.
No,
So when you were at the VFW and you asked for more responsibility from the dishwasher position to out waiting tables, why were you comfortable doing that?
because at the time my manager was actually pretty nice.
Mm,
Then at Giant Eagle, because Giant Eagle, the manager was not very nice.
okay.
So
Okay. And you felt comfortable around the manager at the VFW. Okay. This
yeah,
is a great segue into the next section, Rachel, for the employer training.
Mm, absolutely.
So let's piggyback off of this. Communication is one of the things you work on in employer training. So please take it away on this. What do you do with employers?
Yeah, we offer so much for employers. I feel like there's not one size fits all. We've done anything from hour-long awareness trainings, we do series, we do day-long workshops, I've done week-long workshops, I've done full pilot programs where we analyze the current structure of the hiring process and then implement a new one that uses universal design or principles that will benefit neurodiverse individuals, but also benefit everyone. So how do we
That's what
make,
universal design means, right? I was going
yeah,
to ask you about that. I forgot when we
yeah. So
initially talked.
no, universal design is a concept that if we create something for the few, it will also benefit the many. One of the greatest studies in universal design was actually curb cuts. So when I say curb cuts, I mean when you walk into an intersection, there's now a slope that goes down for wheelchairs to enter the intersection, and it has the bumps for people who use canes, and that's normally where the buttons are that you push for the signs to stop and go. Curb cuts. They were mandatory to be put in the 90s as part of the ADA, American with Disabilities Act. And there was this upcry that they're going to cost so much money. It's going to be millions of dollars are wasted on 10% of the population. No one's going to use it. It doesn't benefit anyone. But when Harvard did a study 10 years after they were put in, they found that 90% of the time they were used by and benefited people who they weren't made for. So they're made for people in wheelchairs and they were made for people who are visually impaired. However, they benefit delivery people, moms with strollers, dads with strollers. They actually did a study outside a chiropractor's office that people would walk down to the curb cut to walk down and then back over to their car because it was harder for them with the pain in their back to lift their leg higher. People with canes, elderly, like it benefits so many people because we built this for the few. And so that's the same principle we use into the workplace. How do we build hiring systems, recruitment systems, onboarding, feedback for the few, but we're implementing it for everyone. So it's going to benefit the many. This is not about saying you're autistic, so we're going to hire like A, and you have ADHD, so we're going to hire like B. This is about saying we're all individuals and we all need a process that works for everyone. How do we make this process efficient for everyone, not just neurotypicals or not just ones with ADHD?
I'm really happy that you brought up that example because that stuck with me when we originally talked. So thank you for bringing that up. Rachel, when you talk about workplaces weren't designed for the neurodivergent individual, what do you mean by that?
I mean, workplaces were designed notoriously for the one person working. A work environment starts with the CEO and leader. And most jobs are added exactly like they're added, and most interviews are conducted exactly like the interviewer was interviewed in the beginning. So, for example, when I first was told I was going to interview someone else for our team, I was slid a resume the day before and said, Rachel, you're interviewing this person tomorrow. Good luck. And that was the full, complete amount of training that I got to decide whether someone was a fit for our team. And I would say that's actually probably pretty average. It's not taught in high school, it's not really taught in college. Most companies don't have training, maybe a few, but I would say 3 to 4% of companies have training on how to actually manage or actually interview someone. So what do? You go to Google and you type in, what questions do I ask in an interview? And you pop up. You ask them what popped up. Or you try to remember what questions were asked in your last interview and you re-ask those. The problem is a lot of those are sneaky and not designed for everyone's brain. They're designed for brains back in the 60s and 70s when they first really came around. We ask questions like, tell me about a time you had a bad situation and how you overcame it. Or, um, why do you want this job? And for some reason, I need money is an acceptable answer to the job, even though that's the actual reason we want this job. None of us really go to work because it's our passion and it's our love. It's our lifelong goal to go to a grocery store and pull groceries. We go and we do this because we need money. And if we didn't need money, we'd probably be doing something else with our time. But that's not the acceptable answer. So when you look back, it's all we do things because that's how it was done before us. And if it's that's how they did it before them. That's the questions they asked. That's how they were interviewed. That's how they were managed. And so the shift now is about thinking intentionally. Is this question clear for a neurodiverse mind? Is this question clear for everyone? What am I actually asking? And what am I actually basing this criteria on? So many times we see in a job, as an example, we'll see it says must lift 50 pounds, must be able to lift 50 pounds on almost every single job at or job description out there. And I'm like, I sit in an office, I sit at a desk and I type. Why do I need to be able to lift 50 pounds? Like it might happen once in a year, and I'm pretty sure I can ask someone around me to lift those 50 pounds for me. It shouldn't eliminate me from this job. But we see eliminating language over and over and over again, which unintentionally just carries on from the one before it.
Let's talk about communication a second because you referenced it, it comes up in the job interview process. John referenced it. He said he didn't feel comfortable talking to his manager at the grocery store, but he felt very comfortable talking to his manager at the VFW. So he felt free to express himself and ask for increased responsibility in a different job. When managers conduct a live job interview, I guess there are laws out there that prevent them from getting too personal and asking about certain aspects of somebody's makeup, like, are you neurodiverse? Are you autistic? Are you anything like that? Do you not like loud noise? Can you tell me more about what would be disruptive about the workplace? I think that's not allowed, right?
That's correct. Yes, you can't ask specific questions, right?
But it's the thing they need to know in order to understand the behavior of the employee that they just hired.
Yep.
How does this get to change? Can it change? And this is one of the bigger questions I was going to ask you. I know you can't for the United States change the interview policy, at least not today. But in your training, do you ever train both employer and employee together to help develop a better communication?
Yes. So I think this works in two ways. as an individual who is being interviewed, I've seen a lot of people come out and say, I love this job description, but I don't like A, I don't like B, I don't like C, I don't like D, I don't like E, I don't work well in these environments. And to a manager, it comes off very non-cooperative, right? So while you want to be able to communicate the areas you fit well in and make sure the environment is the right fit for you, you don't want to come in as demanding or dictator that you're not flexible and you can't work with other people. So we need to find a way in balance on how we communicate those things. On the other end of it, I know a lot of managers who can't ask certain questions. You can't ask questions about age. You can't ask questions about diagnosis, any of those things at all, right? So a lot of managers will walk away from an interview with someone who is neurodiverse, autistic, and say, I don't know, they just didn't feel right. Something was off,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
so one of the things that I still do recommend, and I know this might be a little difficult to say in the environment we have in the government right now, but I still say taking control of the narrative in an interview can be very powerful. So rather than allowing the manager to walk away and say something fell off, what the individual who is being interviewed can do is bring the topic up. So the manager can't directly ask, but the interviewee can bring a topic up and can say, I am autistic and I don't like working in things with a lot of noise. Is there a way I can have a quiet corner in the work environment?
Mm.
Right. And the moment you say,
Yes.
I am autistic, you've opened the conversation. Now the manager can ask questions about your environment in a clear way. Right. So there are times where I say, don't diagnose, don't talk about yourself, but there are times where I say, yes, right. Being able to name it and being able to say, I struggle with A, B, and C, but I'm confident I can do this work for you because of this and because of that and because of this allows the manager to not walk away saying something was just off. It allows them to walk away and say they were confident enough to claim what they're struggling with and then tell me why this isn't an issue rather than walking away with it being unsaid. So just
Okay.
because the manager can't say it doesn't mean that the individual can't bring things up.
Okay.
And
This
once
is
it's on the table, the doors are open in a different way.
all right. So this is perfect because yes, the door can open with the applicant
Mhm.
bringing it up. The manager, the interviewer has to be comfortable engaging in the conversation. Therefore, they need to know about these different diagnoses so they can appreciate and understand the upside.
Yes.
Because there is an upside. You have a statistic here. Wait a minute. I've got the statistic. Dyslexic professionals excel in big picture thinking.
Mhm.
And you brought up earlier in this interview about autistic people and doing some type of work that a lot of other brains wouldn't enjoy. You know,
Mhm.
this very specific, almost very dry kind of work, but they seem to like it. So, do you, in your training, are you going to bring it up in your training? uh, what all these diagnoses mean, the upside and possibly the challenging side, and help managers and interviewers get comfortable in the conversation.
Absolutely. So one of the things I spend a lot of time with managers on is understanding the diagnosis and not like a DSM-5 level. We're not diagnosing people here, but understanding how an autistic or dyslexic or ADHD brain actually shows up at work. And then understanding both sides of the equation. So I have managers all the time that say that they want someone with bottom up thinking, which is standard for people with autism, tend to do a lot of bottom up thinking. So that processing, data information, seeing things that other people miss is a lot with that bottom up processing style. However, you take that style to a restaurant and they get overwhelmed by the noise, right? There's too many things on the wall. They try to read a Cheesecake Factory level menu and they get lost on the first page and they can't process it all. And then like, but the manager needs to understand you want
Mm.
exceptional processing, but you can't have exceptional processing only when it benefits you. You get exceptional processing all the time. So, right, we need to accept the whole individual, not just the parts of the individual that we want to leverage for our team's benefit, but the whole individual and figure out when this is wonderful, how we amplify that. And when this is a struggle in the environment we're putting them in, like a Cheesecake Factory restaurant, how do we make sure that they have ample time that they need to process all the data that they have? So we talk about both sides of the coin, right? The wonderful things and how we look at kind of the rest of it and make sure that we have those processes in place.
Okay, now, John, this is where part two of the VFW comes in. So you felt comfortable enough with Nicole, is that correct?
Correct.
Where, say what you did. You go ahead, tell the story.
All right. So me and Nicole, my friend Nicole that works there, we came up with well, she came up with this idea with the picture menu,
Mm-hmm.
and she brought it to my managers, to make for the idea to be, you know,
Nicole's supervisor?
yeah, she's one of
Okay,
the supervisors.
okay.
And so we did a picture menu, and that's how we worked on, well, that's
Well,
how
it's
she,
more than a picture menu, though. She gave,
yeah,
because you have it around there, the laminated version
yeah, uh-huh,
of they created a different version of the menu, so it was
yeah,
mostly pictures, right, John?
yeah, correct.
Laminated it and then gave him a marker
Yeah.
to go ahead, then bring to the table.
And
You
then
could go ahead.
and then and then I would bring it to the table, and I would draw lines to what they wanted, and then if there's a special, I would use the like a dry eraser thing, and I would mark it like a check mark on the side of the thing, on the side of where the like star thing
Hmm.
was. Yeah.
And so my understanding was, Rachel and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that the people at the table would mark the number of French fries they wanted, the number of
Uh-huh.
hamburgers they wanted. I mean, it was
Yeah.
very casual dining there.
Yeah.
And then John would bring it back to Nicole or whoever's working the register at the time. They would key it in for him because math numbers are not his
Yeah.
strong suit.
Right.
It would get translated to the kitchen like it
Mhm.
normally does. And when the order was ready, John would go in, pick it up, bring it to the table, and then he would ask them to say, who gets what, and he would serve it to
Right.
them.
Correct.
So this was a small business, very warm people, by the way. So going back to Rachel, what you're talking about with communication, and everybody has to feel comfortable with each other. So the problem solving can be easy and beneficial to everybody.
Absolutely. That sounds wonderful. I love that example. I think it's a beautiful example of accommodations in the workplace for actual individuals, right? Like, what does John actually need to survive it, to thrive at work? What can we do for John to have the type of job he really wants to work for? And then have everyone work to put it in place. And it sounds like it went incredibly well.
Yes.
Good.
And the only reason he's not there is because he moved too far away, or he would still be there.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
go
But
ahead, John.
you know what my real dream job is to work in a hotel cleaning rooms.
Cleaning
You've
rooms.
never said this. Okay,
Well,
keep going.
I just thought of it right now.
Okay.
The reason I would like to do that is because I mean I watch a lot of like movies where you go to the hotel and you have like the room service and people leave tips sometimes, but I just like to be very like neat. Like I don't. Like make it so like people come back and you know, things like that. But I always wanted to work in a hotel,
Mm.
always.
I
Okay,
know it's
John.
not a hotel, but I have a friend who does car detailing. Car
Ooh.
detailing is a really wonderful job if you enjoy that cleaning. You literally get one car dropped off, you spend all day on it, and they pick it up and have another one. It's if you enjoy that sort of thing and you're really great at those details.
Oh,
Oh.
Rachel, you're good at this.
Thank you.
You're good at the creative ideas. I love you. Um, yes, John is very neat,
Hmm.
has excellent taste, picks
Hmm.
outfits for me when we go shopping when I go back to
Mm.
Pittsburgh. I
Mm.
mean, it's a real treat going shopping with him, but it's interesting when well, he no longer lives with his mother, but when
Yeah.
he lived with his
Wait a
mother,
minute. Yeah.
would do my laundry,
Mm.
Yeah.
and the folding would be exceptional.
Yeah. Good.
Store
Good.
quality folding. And
I'll give you
Judy,
an example. Like I'll give you
go
an
ahead.
example. I just went to Kohl's with Miss D a couple of days ago.
His
Okay,
caregiver guide,
caregiver, yeah.
intern,
And
whatever.
and so we go in, and you know how like you go into a store, right? And people like throw all these the shirts and stuff. I said, I can't. I have to make it nice and neat. They were like so messy, and she's like, John, you really shouldn't do that. I said, no, but it's driving me nuts. I have to. Because you can't see what you want to buy when people throw it in a pile. Just like when you go to a record store and you go to a record store and you say, "Oh, I like this artist." Okay? You have to literally dig to get to the CD that you want. They don't make it nice and neat, so you don't know you have all the extra work and effort.
That's
Yeah.
very interesting. That's
Mhm.
very interesting
Love
that
it.
you said that. Thank you. Thank
You're
you for
welcome.
that. I want to
I'm
close.
I'm I'm sorry, you
Go
mentioned
ahead.
Pittsburgh, John. Are you in the Pittsburgh area?
Correct, yes.
I'm north of Pittsburgh myself. I'm probably an hour north of the city, 45 minutes out north of the city. I'm actually not far from you at all. So I'd love to connect and see what I can actually do to help. I don't know what region of Pittsburgh you are, but you're not
Washington
far from me.
County.
Hmm?
Rach, I can't believe you're in
I'm,
Pittsburgh.
I
Oh
am.
my
I'm near
God.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Yes.
I live in Washington County. I live on North Main Street in Washington County.
Okay.
Is Robinson part of North Pittsburgh, Rachel? Is
Yeah,
that Robinson Township? No,
West. That's airport
that's west.
area, right? West. But I mean,
Right.
there's huge
that's
stores. The amount of
that's
stores in
Allegheny.
Robinson is
Yeah, that's
huge.
Allegheny County.
Okay,
Yes.
this is really cool, and we will definitely do this separately. I want to close this portion out, and then I want to do the second portion with your projection for 2026. But I'd like you to say whatever I didn't ask you to tie it up with a little bow, Rachel, as we conclude. Anything?
No pressure. I think it's just really important that if you are an individual looking for a job, I just want to take a moment to encourage you that there are amazing jobs out there. There are amazing companies and amazing bosses. And I know it's really easy to get discouraged by maybe negative experiences or that you've personally had, that you've talked to others or you've seen in the past. But with every negative experience I see wonderful companies who are trying really hard to push this forward and managers who truly do want to make a difference and want to have a way to impact it. So as companies and individuals are catching up, and as we continue to push this training to those who are open and really want to make a difference, just keep your head up and keep pushing and know that there are great jobs for you out there and that we're here to help you find them and push them forward in any way possible.
Thank you. That was like the best message you could ever give, Rachel. And just from this conversation, oh, I so believe in you. I so believe in what you can do. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate
I
you being
appreciate that.
here. Hold on, everybody. Next week, we're going to have a second episode on her with projections for next year. John, is there anything you would like to say in a parting comment?
Just be yourself, I guess, and then you don't have to be scared. You just feel what just go in there and you just do the best you can, even when things are really difficult for you. So that's all I have to say.
That was an excellent parting message. Thank you.
Mhm.
And here's my parting message to everybody. In the world of special needs, we all need each other. And I will talk to you all next week. Take care.